I think it's natural for us to be constantly unsatisfied and always want more. We've been told we're wired to want more, to work harder, to push further, to reach for the next thing before we've even settled into the current one. But the older I get, the more I come back to gratitude, to actually looking at what's already in front of me. Because when you slow down long enough to notice the small things, the moments, the people, the ordinary details of your day, you realize the life you've been looking for is already here. Like, we live in a world that rewards wanting more, more money, more followers, more status, more experiences, more proof that your life is moving in the right direction. And I'm not saying ambition is wrong. I have it. I've built things from nothing. I still have goals I'm working towards, but there's a difference between ambition and chronic dissatisfaction. And I think a lot of us have confused the two. So I'm saying it this way so that you understand. Ambition says something like, I'm building towards something. But chronic dissatisfaction says, nothing I have is ever enough. One moves you forward, the other just keeps you restless. And there are a few things I've observed from talking to so many people throughout my very short journey on earth. The people who are always chasing the next thing rarely enjoy the things they just got. They hit the milestone and immediately they're already looking for the next one. The next job becomes ordinary within weeks. The new house stops feeling special. That achievement that was supposed to change everything doesn't really change anything. And so they chase again. And psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You work hard to get somewhere, you arrive there, you feel good for a moment, and then you go back to the baseline and start looking for the next thing to want. It's interesting. It's interesting. I've been racking my hand around this thought just all day, and I realize that it's not a character flaw. It is by design. The economy runs on dissatisfaction. You see, advertising exists to make you feel like what you have isn't enough. And the whole system works better when you keep wanting. And knowing this, knowing that all these things I just talked about doesn't mean you have to live at its mercy. Because the people I know and I have seen who seem genuinely content, not just passive, not without ambition, but content, they've learned something the rest of us are still figuring out. And I spoke to someone recently about this who shared with me. He said, gratitude is not a feeling, it's a practice. And it changes what you see. Maybe a personal story, like I always do. See, before I became a dad, I wanted everything. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to build multiple businesses, get the bag, collect experiences, become something. I literally had an identity and I was so protective of it. Entrepreneur, founder, creative, builder. You see, those words meant something to me. They were how I understood myself. Then I became a dad. And a lot of that fell away. It wasn't gradual, it went so fast immediately. See, the businesses I was running, the things I was building, the version of myself I had spent years constructing, I had to put it down, not because I chose to, but because a child doesn't care about your identity. A child just needs you to be there. And for the first time in my adult life, I had no choice but to be present. I couldn't chase, I couldn't perform, I couldn't outrun the moment I was in. And in that stillness, in those very ordinary moments, which wasn't glamorous at all, those moments that I couldn't even post about, something shifted in me. I stopped measuring my life by what I was building and started actually living inside it. And what happened after that still surprises me when I think about it. See, now I run a company valued at a few $1 million. My personal brand reaches millions of people every month. My wife is excelling in her career. And my son is the most adventure filled, loving person I've ever been around. I didn't get here and I didn't get less by slowing down. I got whole. And I feel like that's the word. It wasn't full. All, full basically implies capacity, but all means nothing is missing. And I don't think I would have found any of it if I hadn't been forced to stop reaching for more and look for what was already in front of me. And I'll still come back to this thought. I think we've been told a story about success that leaves out a very important part. And it's quite a disservice. The story goes want more, work harder, achieve, repeat. And that's not wrong, exactly. But it's incomplete because it never tells you when to stop and look around. It never tells you that presence is a skill, that noticing is a skill, that the ability to sit with what you have without immediately reaching for the next thing is one of the rarest and most valuable things a person can develop. I've said it before, gratitude is not weakness. It's not settling. It's not giving up on your goals. It's the thing that keeps you sane while you're building them. Because here's the truth, the life you are waiting for or waiting to feel good in, you're already living parts of it right now, today. The people around you, the small wins, the things you brush past, the fact that you woke up this morning with the capacity to think, to create, to want things at all, that's not nothing. And most of us just move too fast to feel it. I know I always get practical with you, so let me do it right now. And I want this to actually feel a little bit different from how I normally would do it. And first, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you sat with something good without immediately thinking about what comes next? When was the last time you finished something and let yourself feel it? Not for a second, but long enough that it actually landed. Because I think a lot of us are living our lives in fast forward, always ahead of ourselves, always in the next chapter before we finished reading this one. And the I lost my thought. The cost of all of those things that I just mentioned, of moving in fast forward, is not just burnout, it's the loss of the actual experience of your life. You can't want more and still, you can want more and still be grateful for what you have. Those two things are not at war with each other. But gratitude has to be practiced deliberately because the world is not going to slow down for you. That's true. The notifications are not going to stop. The comparison is not going to disappear. But you have to choose to look at what's already yours. Start small. One thing a day that lets you feel like yourself and appreciate it without immediately qualifying it. One moment you sit in without reaching for your phone. One day where the goal is not to get more done, but to be more present in what's already happening. It sounds simple. It is simple, but it's also harder than most things we do. And I'll end with this. I think this is getting a bit long. I'll end it with this. I'll end where I started from. Let me do it that way. I think it's so natural for us to be constantly unsatisfied and always want more. And I'm not here to tell you that's wrong. I'm just here to say, don't let it be the only gear you have. Don't let it be the only factory setting you know. Because the life you've been working towards, you're already inside part of it. The moments, the people, the ordinary details of your day, they won't be ordinary forever. One day you look back at exactly the seasons and realize, oh my goodness, this was actually full and I missed it. But you don't have to wait until then to see it. Right now, you can slow down, you can look around, you can see the life you've been looking for and realize that it's already here. And if only you take the time to do this, if only you not just qualify everything as though it's one massive hamster wheel to constantly keep chasing, you can create pocket moments within everything that is going on, the chaos, and still give yourself enough room to appreciate what is here. Like I said, gratitude needs to be practiced daily. Think about the way you wake up and you brush your teeth. It becomes what? Muscle memory. But you do it every day. If you don't do it today, would you beat yourself up for not doing it today? No. You make sure that, oh, later in the evening, you do it. And that's literally how gratitude is. But you need to actually then put in a lot more intentionality to this because life won't stop for you. The chaos won't just die down. Everything keeps moving. But you need to learn how to move irrespective of how these things are happening. And then how to carve out time to just take space and notice and observe and see how life is moving and recognize what you already have. Be grateful for that. It doesn't mean you can chase other things, but you're able to bask in the joy of what currently exists. I'm glad that you stayed up until now. I really, really love that you do that. And as always, I'm glad you stayed. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.